Hey guys, my name is Rosia Collins and I'm part of the Second Syndicate. Tonight's episode is very dear to our hearts as children are very important to us, and we want to make sure that we can provide them a healthy and safe learning environment. And for parents like myself, I want to make sure that we can give you guys peace of mind. So thank you for tuning in and watch the entire episode, because it's very important that you learn how you can be a part of that change.
What's up, everyone? Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Alicia Garcia, and this is the Second Syndicate, or the Second is First. We have a very, very special show for you tonight. We have some unique guests in light of certain things that are going on here in Colorado. First of all, I want to introduce the mysterious third party behind the Second Syndicate. So as you know, Teddy Collins is usually my co-host, but today we have his lovely, beautiful, smart, charismatic other part of the Collins family, Rosia Collins. She is the third founder of the Second Syndicate with Teddy and I. So welcome, Rosia. Nice to have you finally here. She is making her debut on the show behind the microphone instead of behind the curtain. So it's very, very lovely to have her here. And the reason Rosia is joining us today is because we have a topic that is very near and dear to our hearts, as well as I'm sure countless people across Colorado and nationally, when talking about how to protect our children in schools. So as a treat, and as an expert in understanding that, we have Laura Carno of Faster Colorado. She is joining us today. Thank you so much, Laura, for being here. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
This is really, really great. So Faster Colorado is a program that I learned about a couple years ago. Laura and I had a conversation a couple years ago when we were delving pretty much into the idea of creating more of a Second Amendment organization. And now that it's come to fruition, we have her here, and we really love what she does and what she brings to the table. So if you guys aren't familiar with what Faster does, she is here to tell you all about that. So Laura, please educate everybody in here about what you do and what Faster does.
Sure. So 9 years ago, if you had told me that I would be this far into what we're doing at Faster Colorado, I would have told you were crazy. It's gone like that. What we do at Faster Colorado is there are lots and lots of armed people in our schools today who aren't school resource officers, and they're not full-time security guards. They are actually teachers and principals and janitors and coaches and all kinds of positions within the school. They go about their business doing their coaching and teaching and whatever. They do it armed, and they are concealed carry.
Wonderful.
A lot of people in Colorado, even gun people, don't know that this has been legal for like 20 years in Colorado. And the way that it works here in Colorado, different in every state, the way that it works here in Colorado is that the school board or the charter school board needs to approve it. Okay. So it's not the sheriff, it's not the mayor, it's not the superintendent, it's different across the country. Here it's the school board. So once the school board authorizes this, there's a big process. There's lots of policies and procedures and things that need to happen for them to be able to have armed staff legally. What we do at Faster is they've got to have training. Obviously, we all know the value of training. What we provide at Faster is their annual certification training. So their board requires it, their insurance company requires it. And so that's what we do is their annual certification training. And then the school board makes sure that they are also dry firing weekly, and they're also going to the range monthly, and they're doing drills quarterly and all kinds of other stuff. We just do that monthly, or that annual qualification training.
And that's amazing. So walk us through a process. So for example, we have, in light of today, we pre-recorded this show, but today we had some very unfortunate news that there was some violence that was committed in Evergreen, Colorado, which is another community that is being affected by violence in schools. And a lot of us feel, we're at this point where it's like, how can we, as we the people, make a difference, right? How do we cause change? Because we don't want to rely on the government to do it. We don't want to rely on, we appreciate our first responders, don't get me wrong, but it takes them time to get there. And we all know that time is of the essence when it's an emergency, and we don't think that our children and the people that we care about in our society should have to wait for self-defense. So we really believe in this program, and I thought, okay, well, how do we get this started? We originally started brainstorming, like, how can we raise money to help Faster Colorado. So we at the Second Syndicate decided, well, we were going to start a scholarship program to help raise money and awareness to get people through your program. But, we're not the experts on how this works. This is something that Laura has designed. Obviously, she's been doing it, like what she said, 9 years. So rather than us say, okay, let us tell you what we want to do, why don't you tell us how we can help you? So first of all, what does it take for a school to become capable of having an armed educator in their building in Colorado, and how do schools, petition or become able to do that?
Yeah, it's so different in every school district just because of the politics, right? So it doesn't surprise anybody to hear that rural school districts were the first adopters of this, because number one, they know about law enforcement response time, and it's in these rural districts, it's 30, 45, 60 minutes. These are also communities where people are just more comfortable with firearms. They grew up on farms and ranches. Firearms are just part of how they operated their daily business. So those are two good reasons why it started really in the rural areas. And those school boards are typically, because they're coming from those communities, they understand this, and they understand that if we don't have armed staff there, then we are waiting for a killer to have his way with everybody in the school, because no help is coming otherwise. So that's really how that started.
It's also more affordable for them too, right?
Yeah, and it's very affordable, and that's a really great point, especially in these, some of these little bitty rural school districts, with 100 kids in one building, K through 12. There's just not enough money coming in for them to even have the choice to have a school resource officer or a full-time security guard. So this is the only way that they can do that. Move into the suburbs and the more urban areas, then you look at a different makeup of school district, of school board rather. So where we have school boards that are open to this, and let's just start there. We have a school board that's open to this. Typically they reach out to us at Faster and they say, hey, we're thinking about this. Can you come speak to a school board meeting? Can you come, educate some group of people, a parent group? One school had us come do a town hall. So all of the, parents could come hear stuff. So it happens different in every place. Once they approve it, and there's a process that they have to approve the policy. Then they have to say, okay, well, how are we going to pick people? And what I've been really impressed with over the last 9 years is, in the beginning, it was like, oh, I work with these people and they are also gun owners and we hunt together every year. They'll be on the team. Well, it has really gotten more stringent, which I think is good within the school districts, to say, okay, we're going to handpick these people. And there's going to be a vetting process, an application process, an interview process. Some school districts have had a member of local law enforcement sit on an interview panel, that kind of thing. And then once they are approved by the school, then they start thinking about, okay, are you bringing your own firearm? Is the school going to provide a firearm? Does everybody have deep concealment holsters? Does everybody have training holsters? We got to get training. Where do we go? We're, an obvious provider here in Colorado. So there are lots of steps, and all of those things that I talked about could take 6 months. They could take 6 years, depending on where a school is in their decision-making process. I know that was a really long answer.
No, I appreciate that, because I know there's probably a lot of people out there that are like, okay, we want to know how to help, but we don't know the process. And that's one of the things that we were faced with here at the Second Syndicate. Like, okay, I don't want to tell you how to do your job. And originally I was thinking, if there's probably people that want to volunteer for this program. And Laura was like, well, that's a great idea, but we already have a design of who gets chosen, because there is a vetting process. But I know there's a lot of schools out there and a lot of parents too that are probably going to say, well, I don't know if my school is involved, that my kids are at, with the Faster program. And if I want my school to get involved in this program, what do I have to do as a parent to, kind of be that change maker and push that ideology, like, hey, there is this resource. We want this here for our students.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up parents, because this is actually a very parent-driven policy where it happens in schools. It's typically it's either the school has had a scare and they say, gosh, a thing almost happened. What if it did happen? What would we have done?
Right.
And they game that out and say that would not have been good here. Or parents come to the school and say, it's usually after things like what just happened in Evergreen or what happened in the Catholic Church in Minneapolis or any of the other numbers of them. They go to the school and they say, if this happens at my child's school, how are you responding? And I hear from parents all over the place. So I kind of put them all into different buckets. Some parents hear, we've got it handled. Don't you worry, little lady, almost getting patted on the head is how the tone comes across, right? So some get that kind of treatment. Typically superintendent or principal are willing to go into a little bit more quiet detail and say, we've got it covered. We have armed people on all our campuses. We are prepared to respond just like the police would. Something like that would make a parent understand that there is going to be some lethal response if something happens. They are going to save the children. And then some schools are kind of in between, where they will have those quiet conversations, but they actually don't want a bunch of detail out there for the safety of staff members. But 100%, I'm going to say 100% of the schools we work with, there is some indication on the school building that there are armed people there. So in some cases, they've just taken off the gun-free zone sticker and replaced it with an armed staff sticker, and it's
nice.
Nobody notices it.
But is it always necessarily true that they do have armed security on there, even though you don't see one?
That's a good question. I only know about the people we know, so I don't know about the people I don't know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there could be schools out there faking it with stickers. I don't know. But some schools, so think of some of these rural schools that might be off an interstate or something. Some of our schools have signs the size of this wall behind us that you can see from the freeway.
That's nice.
That says we have armed staff. And it's a deterrent. And
absolutely.
And we have thought it's a deterrent, and now we know from the last number of shootings that killers are taking armed security into account. The Minneapolis shooter said, I'm not going to go to this school. I'm going to go to this school. And his words were, this school, where he ended up going to the Annunciation Catholic School, this school is a more liberal school, so they're less likely to have armed teachers.
Oh, wow.
So now you've got kids over at this other school who didn't get shot because they were known to be armed, and this school did get shot because they were thought not to be armed. This is a deterrent. It's no longer, oh, wouldn't it be nice? This is a deterrent, and we know that.
I mean, I teach in my concealed carry classes. One of the things that I say to people all the time is, okay, if you're a bad guy, you want the element of surprise, right? You want the upper hand. So if you know person A is armed and you know person B isn't, who do you think you're more likely to choose? You know, are you going to pick the porcupine or are you going to pick the bunny rabbit? You know, you want something that has a form of defense in place. And I really commend you for taking initiative to do this. What inspired you to do this?
Because I'm a crazy person.
Welcome to the club.
Yes. So do you guys remember back in 2013 when we recalled a bunch of state senators here?
Yes.
Okay. So some friends from Ohio came out here to help us with that, from Buckeye Firearms Association. And they had seen me on some national media and said, oh, we would like to come out and help. Like, we're doing pretty good here in Ohio. So they actually self-deployed at their own expense, 10
Nice.
people here, 5 in Pueblo and 5 in Colorado Springs. And they walked and they called and they went to gun stores and ranges and handed out water and flyers at high school football games. And they were amazing. So after that was all over, they said, hey, you should come see what we're doing in Ohio, teaching armed school staff. And I was like, okay, why wouldn't I do that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a very rational processor. I don't make decisions with my heart. It's
Task oriented.
Yeah, and logic oriented. But when I went out to that class, it was a very emotional experience for me. I don't have a lot of teachers in my family. I'm more law enforcement, military in our background, and and I just, politically, I was like, oh, teachers and school staff would be against this. It was my bias going in. And then I met 24 people in Ohio who were going through this level 2 class in Ohio, and they were like us. But they worked in a school. But they knew that if they did not have a firearm and somebody came in to kill their children, they would run toward the sound of gunfire anyway, and they would die to protect those children.
Might as well be armed.
Might as well be armed.
Definitely.
And but the mindset just stunned me that there were these heroes in teachers' clothing.
Yeah.
And it changed my life.
I mean, it's definitely better than the alternative of sticking them in the corner and saying, I'll cover them with my body. So
Right. And we keep seeing in these school shootings that, teachers and counselors and principals keep dying because they do have the mindset to save lives. But like Coach Aaron Feast in Parkland, who was a gun owner, obviously disarmed going to work, died protecting children. Why does Coach Feast not have the right to go home to his family alive?
Agreed.
Because he works in that building and not across the street at the, I don't know, department store where he could be armed or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's all kinds of angles on this, but that's what got me very interested in this. I came back to Colorado thinking we need to have that same kind of law they have in Ohio, not knowing it had already been quietly in place. And so what I felt my job was to do is these folks are getting training, but they should have access to the same training law enforcement gets.
Yes.
They should be learning from SWAT team members. They should be learning from the best. And so we assembled in 2017 our first class, and I've raised a bunch of money and offered it for free just to get people out and get, kind of a proof of concept. And we have been, off and running ever since. In October, we have our 50th class coming up.
I would love to take one of those classes.
Yeah.
Just because I would like to understand the curriculum from an instructor standpoint.
Absolutely.
I don't even like to call myself a firearms instructor. I think that term has kind of lost validity with so many over-certified instructors. There's a lot of rubber stamp instructors out there that aren't very tactical, and they don't understand what it means to deploy a firearm out of concealment, get on target, and land defensive shots. So I'm actually a defensive pistol program instructor through USCCA, which is very, very difficult level of curriculum to pass. I'm very proud of myself for that. But to me, one of the things that is very, very important is, as an educator, you have to stay a student.
Yep.
And you have to stay diligent, because this is a perishable skill set, and shooting is a martial art. So you need to hone that craft, and you need to stay sharp, and you need to exercise those muscles and that ability to think through stress. Because a lot of the times in situations like that, you're not going to have time to think. You have to act.
Yep.
You have to act fast, and you have to have effectiveness. And I would be very inclined, to take one of those classes if we could work something out. I would like to do that.
Yeah, and we do allow people who aren't part of our school security teams to come through, as long as it's not taking a spot from a school person. And so we, depending on the year and how many school shootings there were that year, because that really drives the number of new people coming into our program. But yeah, we'd love to have you.
I would love to.
A spot for you.
Rosie is quite a
yeah.
quite a handy chick with a pistol herself.
Thank you. I'm curious, Laura, like how welcoming some schools are, and how do you approach schools about this? Do they mainly approach you, or I'm just kind of curious of how they're responding to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for the most part, we are responding to schools that say, hey, we need some guidance on how we get through this process. And we're at the end of this year, we'll be in about 50 school districts in Colorado.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and probably about 500 people that have come through our program over the years.
That's wonderful.
So those schools are very welcoming because they have initiated the contact. Then we'll talk to some other schools where, let's say a parent group has come together and gotten the school to say,
guns are bad, okay?
They'll let us come in and talk to them. So it would look like, the head of security has agreed to meet with you, and so we'll go in and we'll meet with them, and it's an education of them of what we do. Typically, those kind of situations, because it's not initiated, that the school's not on board when that meeting happened. They're not that happy with us. Then there's another category of, and I've talked about this on a radio show just a little bit ago that there is a Jefferson County dad who keeps going to the Jeffco school board meetings and saying, here's the bill number that passed that allows this. And I think you should send an email to all of your school staff letting them know that it's an option. And you, the school board, can make that approval. And he just keeps putting it in front of their
Good.
face.
That sounds like what I would do.
Yeah. And some schools like that, and this is again a larger school district. Some schools like that have, I will describe them, and this is my language, as fairly hostile to us. So they think it's a bad idea. They think nobody but police officers should be armed, that there aren't people besides police officers who have the mindset to save children. They have a very different mindset about firearms, period. And so they are against the policy and fairly hostile.
And this is where cost comes involved, because if you want to arm your school with a police officer, you're going to pay the bill for that. But to not even give your teachers an option to protect themselves and their children, I think that's really disheartening.
Yeah, I mean, it is, especially because we see things happen like we saw today in Jefferson County in Evergreen, and we see what happened with those beautiful children praying in a church. It's hard to get your head around somebody not wanting to look at every option, not wanting to leave every option on the table and say, gosh, this one makes me uncomfortable, but let's go through it anyway. Because the goal, all of us have the same goal, is to keep children safe.
Indeed.
So we need to be willing to look at every single option. This is the one that keeps proving that it works. And I don't know if you guys follow the Crime Prevention Research Center run by John Lott.
Yes.
And he has this piece of research where he had his people call every single school that ever had a school shooting and talk to them about their security. 0 of them had armed staff. So when you look at armed staff programs around the country, this is the inverse of what he looked at. There has never been a school shooting where there's concealed carry armed staff. There certainly has where there's, school resource officers or other armed security, but never when there's concealed carry armed staff. What does that tell you? The bad guy, as you guys were saying, the bad guy doesn't want to die. They're evil, not dumb. Yeah. They don't want to die before they take a lot of body count. So they're not going to go into those schools. So how about we do this our way, and we have every school has well-qualified, hand-picked, vetted, well-trained. They continue with their training all throughout the year, every year, and they are protecting our children every single day, every school. Guess what? There won't be any more school shootings because the bad guy will go, you know what? I'm going to go wherever else. Yeah. You know what? Then wherever else, wherever that place is, they can figure out how to protect their children. But we need to protect our children. And when that happens, when schools stop being gun-free zones, that's going to be a dynamic change for our country. And we need to make that decision.
Sure, I agree.
And one of those changes should be definitely that the government should be able to offer grants for programs like yours and for teachers to be able to go and get scholarships to go and take your classes. Additionally, we have companies like Spartan Defense and other local companies in the area who have already offered support on helping getting these teachers armed. I have hundreds of vendors who are lining up who want to provide these things for teachers so they can keep our children safe in the community. So one of the things I would like to discuss is, as a firearm business owner, one of the things that we do collect is excess tax for the community to be able to offer grants, but supposedly there's only a small percentage of that going to Colorado because a lot of it goes to victimization.
So to touch on what Rosia is mentioning is last year they passed Proposition KK. That is a 6.5% excise tax on all guns and ammunition purchases in the state of Colorado. Monica Duran, the initiator and core sponsor of that bill, her platform for saying why we want this excise tax and why it's so good and everybody should support it, yay, right, is because the proceeds from this excise tax was supposed to go to mental health resources for veterans. It was supposed to go to resources for domestic violence abuse survivors, and to also schools and things of that nature, from what we were told. Now, we don't actually know where those funds are going, because if you understand government, just like we do here, is that you can make all these grandiose promises about where this money is going to go, but the truth is it's always going to go to a general fund until they decide where they want that money to go. Yeah. So the promises can be, of everybody gets rainbows and unicorns and gold stars, but the truth is it all goes to the government, and then they decide where to shill it out. So I believe that there was a bill this year to decide that actually that money does go to certain programs. Now, is what you're saying, you want to know if this program is actually helping programs like yours?
Well, I'm just curious because I already know that 30 million of that goes first to people who are not law that are breaking the law and victimizing people.
Yeah.
So only a small percentage of that is being given to grants for school security, but I have yet to have seen that or even know where the money is going. So I'm just more curious of like, why are law-abiding citizens responsible for school security? You know, like, we want school security. We are arming ourselves for a reason, so we can protect ourselves and our families and our loved ones. But it's kind of agitating to me to witness this going on. And here we have school shootings where we could have used all of that money for schools to arm our teachers, to have security at all times.
Agreed.
And so naturally, I'm just like, this could have been prevented. And we have things like that could have gone completely to our schools.
Yeah, and so I'll tell you the part of the grants I'm familiar with, and that's through the Office of School Safety. And as long as I've been paying attention to the grants at the Office of School Safety, there's been one, and it's a current grant that we would qualify for. There are a lot of grants out there for schools to for some generic security training kind of stuff. I'm not sure if schools have used it to pay for their faster classes, but there's also interoperable radios or locks. There are schools that their locks haven't been changed in
decades,
forever, and they're old and no keys match, and there's not a master, all kinds of things like that. So I don't know the full answer to your question. I just know as it applies to us as a 501c3, is there's one I was able to apply for. So we'll see how that one goes.
I hope it goes well.
Yeah, you and me both.
Well, I one of the things that I want to also discuss is, where do you see faster going? Like, how many teachers are you able to get through your program every year, and how is that process vetted? So do you know at the top of the year, hey, we have X amount of teachers that we can get through this program because they've already qualified. So what does that process look like? And how can we also step in to help this program?
Sure. Yeah. And let me just do a definitional thing. So we have been using armed teachers as a kind of a shorthand, but it's really all armed school staff. So, and just some interesting numbers, 40% of the people we see are teachers and 60% are non-teachers. And just from a tactical standpoint, that's
great.
60% that don't have to figure out, what do I do with my kids? Do I need to get them into the next room? There's actually some school buildings now that have, they have shared closets between two classrooms, so you could get kids from one classroom to another without going through the hallway, which is
great.
Interesting, right? So anyway, so I just like to say armed school staff because it's more accurate. I think the media likes to say armed teachers because they want us all to
propaganda.
They just want us to think of like the 22-year-old or the 65-year-old, who's
with a Desert Eagle
shaking, because there's so anyway. So how it goes at the beginning of the year. So I talked about, like, sometimes it's a 6-month process, sometimes it's a 6-year process, depending on where the school is. So I'm always keeping in touch with the schools that have expressed interest. And, okay, so you're going to be starting next year. How many people do you think you're going to have? Well, it looks like probably 2 per building, so maybe 10 people. Okay, so I create a demand list, so to speak, so that we know how many people do we think are going to have to come through level 1 this year. And and then we try to get that all into summer training season while they're gone, or while they're off school. Our summer training season this year has extended to November, because what happens is we put our class schedule out in January for the year so folks can plan their schedules, and then something happens and new schools are all of a sudden saying, uh-oh, we should really be doing something. So thus our new November level 1 class. So
Awesome.
yeah, so that's how that goes. So I just try and by the way, we have 2 retired superintendents who work on our team who had really great FASTER programs when they were in their school districts, and I wouldn't let them quit me when they retired. So they are on our team as program managers, and so we kind of have the geography of the state split up. So we all get together on a weekly basis, and what's going on in this district, that district, and keep on top of things that way.
Do you find that certain locations have less funding available than other locations?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So there are, so we're not in Boulder School District, we're not in Denver, we're not in these huge school districts. So, just to level set that. But some of our larger districts, which are, let's say larger rural districts or smaller suburban districts, that have been with us a while. And so their first year, they might be saying, we need to arm staff, but we didn't budget for this last year because we just thought of it today. So they don't have the money for it. So we try to raise money to help some of those folks out. But some of these little bitty schools, it's just not going to happen. So they don't have that the per pupil funding coming in to allow for any extras. And some of them, I mean, I talk about locks, commercial locks are expensive. When you are a little bitty school, that's an expensive piece of equipment if you have something that breaks or something like that you have to replace. So we're raising money all the time. And by the way, I do not like raising money. It's my least favorite thing ever to do. Yet I do it for a living. But we have out at fastercolorado.org, our website, we have our sweepstakes out there right now. We just launched it this week, so you can win a couple of guns and a side of beef and some ammo and a chance to come to Faster and stuff like that.
That's
so
awesome.
That's amazing.
yeah, so folks can enter the sweepstakes and have a chance of winning some cool stuff, but also help us out with our program.
That's amazing. So one of the things that we've done as well, Teddy, Rosia, and I were sitting around and we were thinking, what could we do to contribute? So what we've decided to do, in addition to supporting Faster, and we want to be very clear, we don't care if you donate to us, we don't care if you donate to Faster, we prefer that you donate to us both. But we realize people's resources are, limited. So at least support this cause, regardless if it's through the Second Syndicate or if it's through Faster, because the end goal is the same. And that is to...
Our children are important.
Exactly. And what's the cost of one life? Right? Like, that is
Priceless.
That's the question that I think people forget to understand is literally, what is the cost of one life? Could you go without that extra pair of sneakers that you have? How many pair of sneakers? Can you go without, that new perfume, because that's my junky thing that I love to spend money on? Or could you go without that one thing? And
even a cup of coffee.
Yes, exactly. And use that money and donate to something that could potentially and most likely save a life. So the Second Syndicate, right now, if you go to thesecondsyndicate.com, you can donate to our fund. We have a goal of $50,000 that we want to raise, and that money is going to go to offset costs for those that want to take the Faster program, to pay for their tuition. If they have other needs that they're having a hard time supplying, we have endless resources, like Rosia said, through her gun shop and the contacts that we have in this industry. That way we can offset that and help support those people to get in that program. So you can go to thesecondsyndicate.com and you can donate for the Faster program. We have a link. Also, we have a Give, Send, Go for this fundraising option specifically. So save a life, guys. I mean, these are children.
Yes.
These are children. And I mean, they're the most precious and defenseless things on this earth. And I feel right now it's so important to prioritize their safety, because I'm seeing kids that are raised with fears that I never had.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I'm much older than both of you, and grew up in California, and the thing we were scared of, two things. One was earthquakes. So we did earthquake drills where we would get under our desk, because if the roof came down, that desk was going to save your little head.
Tornadoes.
The other thing in California, not that we trained about it, but there was all of this education about what to do if you're caught in quicksand.
Oh my goodness!
wow.
Wow.
I know, and I
never heard of that.
I thought it was the don't struggle
Don't
thing.
struggle.
And I thought as a little kid that there must be quicksand everywhere.
gosh.
There's no quicksand.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the kids today are thinking about stuff like this. Parents are sending their kids to school with ballistic shields in their backpacks.
Yes.
It is a different generation.
Or even, like,
it's sad.
If they don't have access to a cell phone, I've heard of parents have a watch where they can select an emoji to just let them know, like, hey, I am not safe right now. Obviously, they're children, so they don't know how to maybe write a sentence. So just to select an emoji, just alert the parent that they're in harm's way.
In some communities, all of the parents are coming if they get that message.
Yeah.
They're all coming, and they're prepared to help. So
Yes.
I think that's a great point, is to implore people out there that are watching to please have not only home defense plans that you're talking with your children and the people that you live with, but outside of the home defense plans, as well as defense plans for your children. Because one of the things that keeps coming up is when they're talking about teaching kids about active shooter drills, you're also teaching the active shooter what to expect
Precisely.
the kids to do. So you're giving them a blueprint on how to harm others, essentially. Like, oh, okay, the goal here is, if, bad guy number one comes into the school, this is our rally point, and this is how we're going to, corral the children. Okay, well, you just told that potential school shooter exactly where to go to target these vulnerable children.
Yep.
So I don't understand how this is actually helping, other than indoctrinating children with fear, rather than having those conversations as parents, like, hey, yes, you have a armed panel in your backpack. I don't have kids, thank you, Jesus, because I don't think I would ever sleep a wink ever if I had a child. But I do have loved ones, and I do have friends that have little baby children that I absolutely adore and I love. And in my mind, I'm like, I would literally be taking that kid to the side and be like, you do everything other than what everybody else is doing.
Right.
If everybody's over here hunkered down, I want you to break this window. Here's a little thing that I'm going to give you to break this window. And I want you to run like the Dickens, and I want you to hide here. I'd be that parent.
Yeah.
Because my dad was that parent. The reason I'm before you today as a firearms loudmouth and educator and actively involved in this community is my dad literally sat me down when I was in 4th grade. And he said, Hita, Daddy can't go with you everywhere. And Daddy needs to know that you're okay. My dad was giving me little lipsticks that looked like lipsticks, but when you turned lipstick, a knife came out. Yeah. He was giving me pins that was like, take this off, and it's a shank, and my dad was literally,
he was that dad.
Yeah, my dad was that dad. Like, you stab and you twist and you run. He was giving me this life advice. And I look back now, because I used to ride public transportation home. I used to have to walk to a boulevard, hop on the RTD bus, take the bus down a public street with all these people. Well, I hope to God kids wouldn't do that today. You see what's happening in the world on public transportation, God forbid. But it's like, now they're not even safe in their schools. So how do we change this narrative and raise children that aren't afraid, but that are prepared, and that understand that their lives are worth fighting for, and that people are fighting for them. Like, we're raising a whole generation of kids that are indoctrinated with fear.
And it just amazes me how many students are out there, and they walk into their school each day not seeing anyone that can protect them.
Yes.
And how obviously they are kind of silent about it, And then you have kids who are not silent about it, but their idea behind it is like, no guns should exist. If no guns exist, then
in a perfect world,
if no type of weapon existed, that we would be safe. But as you said, the schools that are being, targeted are those without security or without any type of signage.
Yep.
So there's evidence there that shows that we need security.
I mean, even my daughter, 6 years old, witnesses that she doesn't see a security guard. Granted, she's my daughter.
She's your kid, yeah.
But why is it that this isn't something that we speak about often? I'm kind of more interested on the teacher side of things, what the program entails, like what kind of training, what is the cost for teachers who want to get involved. Can you tell them more about that? Because there are some amazing, good-hearted teachers out there, and you just love them instantly because of how they treat your children. But they deserve that right to be able to give themselves that chance to survive and to help the children survive.
Yeah, they deserve to know it's a legal option, right?
Right.
Yeah, so our level 1 training is the first training class that they would go to. It is not a beginner class. They need to get some prerequisite training if they aren't already involved in, regular training already.
Where do you send them for that prerequisite training?
Yeah, so be happy to add to our be happy to add to our Faster Essentials program. So our Faster Essentials program is private trainers. They're not associated with Faster, but they've been through our class. They've shot our course of fire. They've passed our qualification on the first attempt. They know what it takes to pass Faster Level 1. So yes, happy to talk to you about that if you want to do that.
I believe we have some other people too. We just hired, we brought on, I should say, a very, very wonderful man by the name of Josh Yates. Shout out to Josh Yates of Kingdom Tactical.
Andrew.
He's brilliant. And Andrew too, Andrew Bastian. They are very well versed in firearms and security. And we brought Josh on as our director of education and training. And we brought Andrew on as a director of comms and law enforcement and things of that nature to have that. So nice. we would, any of us that can serve this program and help this better, I know for a fact that we would want to.
Thank you. Thank you for offering that. So level 1, not a beginner program. They've got to have their CCW obviously, and then they need to come to Faster Level 1 being confident and competent and safe. So the test that they pass at the end of every annual qualification class is the same test that police officers need to pass to get out of the academy. It's the post qualification in handgun proficiency. What we do with that qualification is we add 2 shots to it.
Okay.
So it exceeds the post qualification that law enforcement goes through, and we make them pass at 100% to pass Faster. Nice. Not all law enforcement agencies require 100% from everybody.
That's impressive.
So, and is it hard? Yes, it's hard, and that's on purpose. Yeah. So there's mindset, there's medical, there's firearms, and then there's tactics. So that first level class, that level 1 class, 3 days, their insurance company requires that 24 hours. Most people not in the firearms world will say 3 days. What could you possibly learn in 3 days? You know how exhausted you are at the end of a 3-day training class. Bunch. Yeah. And it's, mentally and physically exhausting with what they're going through. And then we have level 2, 3, and advanced. So advanced class, these are people who've been with us between 5 and 9 years now. And it's a day at the range and then a day of movement. All of our movement guys are also active duty SWAT guys. Most of them are on full-time SWAT teams.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. It's
don't talk to me about a good time there, Laura.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to sell me anymore. Yeah. But there's one guy that was in our very first class in 2017, and he was a newer teacher, maybe just a few years into his career. And now 9 years later, he's a principal of a neighboring school. And so these people have just become our friends. We see them every year. But it's so cool to see not just his progression in his teaching career of, congratulating him being a principal, but to see him from, when he was in level 1 and starting to refine some skills to, holy cow, he's moving around with these SWAT guys in the building.
That's awesome.
And, and so, because sometimes I need to stop and say, this is kind of cool what we've been doing.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So, and I don't often stop and do that.
Medical is one of the things that I'm glad you brought that topic, because I would like to see individual first aid kits and trauma kits just like confetti in schools.
Yep.
Yes.
And having children aware of how to help other children, and having parents and teachers and staff understanding how to save a life too, because that's something that we talk about a lot.
Great to include that in health class.
Yes.
If you have a wood shop in your school, you should have tourniquets.
You should have tourniquets. You should have,
At
you know,
least, yeah.
chest seals. You should have hemostatic
Yeah.
gauze. You should have that available for as many people as possible. Like I would prefer, honestly, that there be a med kit for every kid in every school. And that's something, I mean, if I'm one of those people that I'm an idealist, I'm gonna go for the gold.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for the finish line. If that's something that we can help offset a cost for and provide medical equipment
Yeah.
for schools, I'd be more than happy to
That'd
do
probably
that.
be a pretty big need out there. We the medical that we do in Faster is I'm going to call it an appetizer.
Yeah.
These are the things you need to know. We're going to go over them briefly, and you need to go get some like serious medical training.
Yeah.
But we're focused on tourniquets, wound packing, and chest seals. So the
emergency.
things that you would get in
Experience.
gunshot wounds. So
That might be something we should explore. And I'm happy to put, you know, my connections and our connections and the people that we know in this industry to say, hey, this is a need that we have. Why aren't we supplementing this education for free? And hey, maybe we should start offering those types of workshops that, hey, if you work in a school, or if you're a janitor, if you're any of these people, the lunch lady, you know what I mean? Hey, you want to come here and you want to learn emergency life-saving medical techniques, we can do a scholarship for that. And when they graduate that class, they get an IFAC that they can have
That would be
in
amazing.
staff
Yeah.
at school, because let's face it, we want to be able to neutralize these threats, right? We want to be able to stop people from harming innocents. At the same time, we want to make sure that innocence has an opportunity to stay
Right.
alive.
yeah, it's stopping the killing and then stopping the dying.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So maybe that's something that we should explore. So everybody out there, if you have resources like that, if you want to donate, you can donate to Faster. You can donate to the Second Syndicate. We will receive all of your dough, and we will take that money and we will fund it into something worthwhile, because that's the whole point of this, right? That's the whole point of having a grassroots Second Amendment organization. We're not here because, you know, we believe in violence. No, we believe in stopping violence. And the only way that you're going to stop force is with equal or greater force. That's just science. That's just physics. And I think it's time that we start having these real conversations. Like, yes, you should be fluent in violence, because that's going to make you a very peaceful and paced and aware person. I'm not asking people to be violent. I'm asking them to be able to match force with force to stop the violence when someone is wanting to harm innocents. And I know all of us are very passionate about that. So I really appreciate having this conversation today, and you traveling all the way here on a very, very, very heart-wrenching day to have this conversation. I know the temperament today has been kind of low because of the incident that we had in Evergreen, because of the violence that we have seen all throughout America this week, with that young lady on the subway, with, you know, the assassination of a very, very political and outspoken, you know, wonderful people, Charlie Kirk. We deserve to have a safer America. And if our government's not going to do it for us, not only do we need to hold those politicians accountable, but we need to take ownership of the safety for our communities. And I think your program is a wonderful way to do so. And so we're very, very honored to have you here and to share your mission with the world. And, you know, each one teach one, right?
Yeah.
Share this message, share what she does and the name of her organization. Say it out loud. Say it at your school board meeting. Say it everywhere, because we need to bring awareness to this, because we know mainstream media isn't going to. Right? You see that happen right now when things don't go the way they want them to control a narrative, they silence us.
Yes.
But that's why we created this channel. That's why, you know, Spartan Defense has invested so much time, effort, money, staff into being able to have this studio so we can have these conversations, and why we work so hard to bring amazing people like you and bring light to what you do. So you have honored us with your presence here today. So thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Laura.
Is there any other questions you want to ask Laura before we go?
Well, as Charlie Kirk said, you know, if we are arming our banks, if we are arming our airports, why are we not doing that for our children when they are at school?
Yep. That's the right question to be asking. I had somebody who said, this is a while ago, but I'm sure it's still true today. I was in a department store and there was an armed security guard standing looking at his phone at the lingerie department. If the lingerie deserves an armed guard, why don't our children?
Agreed.
Absolutely.
And I can't get my head around this geography of the school unprotected, this geography of the department store protected. Can't get my head around it. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I want you to stay tuned for some things that the Second Syndicate is doing here in conjunction with the Colorado legislator as well as the community. I don't want to spill all the beans yet, but we have some really interesting things that we're doing to help combat the miseducation on firearms. So stay tuned. Follow us there. Follow us on all of our platforms. Head to X at the Second Syndicate. Head to YouTube at the Second Syndicate. Follow us there. Head to all of our platforms. Follow my partner and friend Teddy Collins at the Colorado Two-Way King on all of his platforms. Follow me, the Boomstick Babe. Marcia is the quiet one. She doesn't really
I don't
have
need you to follow me.
social media.
You're the smart one.
But tell us where we can find you on socials as well.
Yeah, so we're on Facebook, X, and Instagram, Faster Colorado. Our lead instructor does the Instagram, so it's way funnier than the other platforms. And go to fastercolorado.org. I mentioned we've got that sweepstakes going on. I would welcome everybody to click on the Our Team button and just look at the experience that we're bringing. If you're in the law enforcement community, you probably know some of our instructors because they've been around for a long time in the kind of Denver metro area. We even have an instructor who is with Parks and Wildlife. He does all of their active shooter training. And when I first met him, I said, are there a lot of like bears and stuff doing active shooting in the forests or what's going on? Parks and Wildlife their folks are distributed all around the state, including in very rural areas. They have responded to every single mass shooting that we've ever had in Colorado.
Wow.
So they are there. And so it's such a great comprehensive team that we've built over the years. I'm really proud of it. So just welcome everybody to take a look at our team. It's just such an impressive group of people to work with. So
Fantastic. We have questions that we ask our guests at the end of every show. You're welcome to answer if you want to. One of them is, do you carry? And if you do, what is your everyday carry?
I always might be carrying.
Hey, I like that answer.
And if I were carrying, it would typically be a 43X.
Nice. And if you had a holy grail firearm, cost, laws, none of those things mattered, what would it be?
Oh gosh. I'm struggling on this one. It's been a very long day.
You're like a free one.
A free
A free one.
The one I don't have.
Yes, exactly. The one that you guys out there want to send her.
Yes.
To Spartan Defense. Or you
Yes.
can purchase her a gift certificate at Spartan Defense also, right? Awesome. Well, Teddy's in there with flashing the Flux Raider. He's all about it. So
Yeah.
thank you again, Laura. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody here, for tuning in. Thank you for Rosia for being here and being a part of this. We really appreciate her. She does a lot behind the scenes that she doesn't get a lot of credit for in the airwaves, but nevertheless, we really appreciate her. And thank you to our staff. And other than that, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time here at the Second Syndicate, where the second is first. Thanks, guys.
From the moment I was born till today, I have a purpose, and I believe that purpose is that I can help save children. And if I can help save 10, 100, thousands of children, I think that would be really incredible for me. Naturally, being a parent, I've heard what teachers are doing to keep their children safe. And walking into a school with minimal security and then asking a teacher what they would do. And I actually had a teacher respond and say, like, I would huddle the kids in the corner of my class and I would cover them with my body. And that just broke my heart that she would consider that an option for her. And today, what we need to do as a community is come together and huddle around all of our children. And we can do that by Faster Colorado. And the way you can give tonight, or give in general, is to go to givesendgo.com/Operation The Educators. Every little piece helps. Your contribution helps. You're not alone. We are together, and together we are powerful. And we can't wait till tomorrow. We can wait until 2 years from now. We need protection for our children now. And if staff members are willing to step up to the plate to do that for our children, let's let them do that, but let's help them. Let's not create a barrier to that. We need to be a part of that change to help them do that part for our children. And if they can do that, then every day when we drop off our children, then we know there's someone there that can protect them. Not shield them with their bodies, but protect them. Laura said that if there is a sign posted out and people know that there are people there to protect our children, they won't go there to harm them. Very unlikely. And so if that's the case, we know that there are predators out there, and we can't stand on the sideline thinking like that there are nobody out there that's going to hurt them. And if that's the case, we cannot be vulnerable. We cannot let our children be vulnerable. So we need to be strong, and we all need to step up to the plate. Give something, anything, because tomorrow is too late. So again, thank you so much for being a part of that. And I look forward to being able to be a part of that change with you. You're not alone. We're in this together. Let's do it. Let's get it done.